My talk today is Otters of the Universe. We're going to look at play. We're going to look at joy. We're going to look at community. Have you seen those otters in Monterey? They're so jovial. They seem to be having so much fun. And our video this morning showed us their playful nature, also their community and motherhood. They're great moms, aren't they? Otters are born not knowing how to swim. That fascinated me. They live 80% of their lives in water, and yet they're born and have to learn to swim, much like we humans have to learn to walk, right? It's just fascinating to me. So they're a great example of play. Our first point this morning we're going to talk about. They're great jugglers. Did that amaze you also? I thought they juggle. Look how cute that is. The rock is a tool, though, isn't it? Because they eat clams and crustaceans and things like that, and they need that tool to open them up. But then it's a toy. They use it to play with. Some of them, they said, carry it around, the same rock all their lives. They found one they like. It's their favorite hammer, so to speak, right? They carry it around all the time. Now, for us, many times we think of tools as work. Don't make me get in front of that computer one more time. Don't make me get on the phone and make one more sales call. Don't make me pick up one more hammer, right? But what if we looked at the tools in our lives? What if we looked at our spiritual tools? What if we looked at our spiritual tools as a way to play with the universe? In our book this month, Illusions by Richard Bach, it's the second book behind Jonathan Livingston Seagull. And there's two main characters in this book, Don and Richard, and they are pilots. They're pilots. And they fly around the Midwest in bi-wing planes, and they give rides for $3 for 10 minutes in the air. Now, I couldn't figure out the math and how they made those numbers work, but that's what they were doing. And maybe it was a long time ago. But Richard, it seems, is always having to do maintenance on his airplane. He's always messing with the airplane, doing something. But Don never seems to need to. And that's a little quirk of the book you'll need to read to understand all that, maybe. But he just plays with the tools. He's kind of like the otter, juggling the tools and playing with them. And one day they're sitting there, and Richard's working on his plane, and Don picks up a wrench, and then the next thing you know, the wrench is just floating in air. Richard's amazed. Richard tries to do it. He thinks really hard. He closes his eyes. He grunts. He groans. He can't make it happen. He can't do it. Don's attitude throughout this book is always more lighthearted than Richard. He seems to be at play all the time rather than working. Even when things get dicey, he's not afraid. Richard, on the other hand, he's a little wound up. He's wound a little tight, as they say. And we see him quickly running away from situations when he has even the slightest perception of a possibility of any future risk. He's out of there. I don't want to be around that. So he leaves. At one point, he is thinking about the differences in the two airplanes that he and Don are driving, or driving is that the right word? Flying. Richard's is a smaller plane. It's called a fleet, if that means anything to anybody. And Don's is a much larger two-passenger plane that is called a travel air. Travel air needs more fuel. Travel air needs more space to land in just because of its size, right? Richard knows all these things. His plane's smaller, lands in shorter places, all that. So Richard one day is thinking, and he says, Richard, if you tie yourself to this guy, you're tying yourself to the limits of his airplane. If you tie yourself to this guy, you're tying yourself to the limits of his airplane. Isn't that true? You ever gone on vacation with someone, traveled with someone, and maybe not been on the same page, and they're wanting to go to the art galleries and the museums, and you just want to go to the amusement park, ride the roller coaster? There's a disconnect, right? There's a disconnect. Tying ourselves to something can tie us to its limits if we allow that. And it applies to everything. It applies to study, it applies to jobs, it applies to religion, it applies to relationships, airplanes, it applies to everything. So it's important that we are aware of our commitments and whether they limit us or liberate us. Do the commitments that we're making limit us or liberate us? So play, who likes to play? Oh, good, good. It's an activity we choose to do, isn't it? It's not something that you can really force, although we hear parents go play. But it's not something we can force. It's something we do because we want to do it. And it's always a low stakes kind of thing. There's not a lot of pressure in play, right? I'm not talking about competitive stuff where we're just all, wound up in that. Just play. It feels good. And it's good for us. Even science says even thinking about when we've been playing is good for our well-being, makes us feel good. Ernest Holmes is the founder of Centers for Spiritual Living. He's also the author of The Science of Mind that we teach from. And he says that play with the gifts of life. He says, play with the gifts of life. Creation is the play of life upon itself. Spirit must create in order to be expressed. If spirit's not creating, it's not expressing. So it's constantly creating. So when we can adopt an otter-like attitude of play with our universal laws, we begin to realize the plasticity and the pliability of them. They work for us. We're already using them, but when we work with them more and we learn more about how they operate, we then can use them more productively in our lives. Excuse me. And when we can use them more productively, we can step more into the flow of good. And when we step into the flow of good, we experience more joy. And joy is our second point this morning. The spiritual quality of joy. Anybody seen the animated movie Nemo? Little fish had the short fin, long fin. He was trying to get from the Great Barrier Reef to Sydney. A little bitty fish. Big challenge out in the open ocean, right? Well, what he discovered was a thing called the East Australian Current. It's like a superhighway that goes under the ocean. There's lots of currents out there that have been mapped. This particular one goes from the Great Barrier Reef out to or over to Sydney. And so Nemo with his friends discovered that, and he was able to get in it and whooshed right along and got to Sydney. And I think of joy, the spiritual quality of joy, a lot like those currents, that it's always there. It's always this underlying joy, a sense of knowing everything is okay. No matter if there's a hurricane going on, no matter if it's the winds are happening, the big waves are going up above, there's a sense of joy at our level of beingness. Russell Nelson says, the joy we feel has little to do with the circumstances of our lives and everything to do with the focus of our lives. Everything to do with the focus of our lives. Life definitely throws us curveballs, would you agree? But we can still choose joy. We can still choose joy. Richard Bach in the book says, "There's no such thing as a problem without a gift for you in its hands. You seek problems because you need their gifts." Isn't that an interesting statement? You seek problems because you need their gifts. Can you think of a problem that has been in your past that now you can look back and you see the gift in it? You see the gift. What if we could become better at finding the gift when the problem shows up for the very first time? Think of something that you may have happening now, some challenge, some problem you're dealing with. Can you see the gift in it? And does that shift your perspective of the problem? When life gets dicey, and it does, we may not be smiling. We may, in fact, be crying. But we can still choose joy. We can still choose to know that underlying, that undercurrent sense of joy. Because when we live in joy, when we cultivate it, we know we're okay. We know we're spiritual beings. We know we are loved. And we know that everything is simply temporary effects and that the only constant that there is change. Joy gives us that sense of knowingness. I call it an anchor for myself. It's a feeling, but it's also an attitude. And it's one that we can choose. And guess what? Our spiritual practices set us up to experience more joy. I like how that works. I hope you do. When we build an intimate relationship with Spirit, joy is the byproduct. Joy is the byproduct because we build that sense of knowingness through that intimate relationship with the divine, through spending time in the quiet, spending time in the silence. I remember when I was in ministerial school, having a profound recognition of joy. Life was full. It was crazy. I was working full time. I was going to school basically full time. I was traveling on the weekends to California for classes, and I was studying every night of the week. Plus, I was trying to maintain some semblance of relationships with family and friends. I felt completely overwhelmed most of the time. And I remember sitting in a class one day, and just suddenly, it was like a light. I just had this overwhelming sense of joy that everything was okay. I was surrounded by students and teachers and advisors. I felt very loved and supported. I had a solid relationship with Spirit. I knew everything was okay. I had a sense of joy. It just bubbled up from within me. Nothing else on the outside had changed. Nothing else on the outside had changed. So I knew that I'd found that current, that East Australian freeway current, and that no matter what was happening around me, I was okay. I was okay. And when we have that sense of I'm okay, gosh, we're happier in life. We can roll with the punches. We can roll with whatever's going on. I want you to think about gratitude. We talked about it a little bit a few minutes ago. Some of you shared. A gratitude practice is another way that we can build joy in our lives. I invite you to think of something that you're really, really, really deeply grateful for. Eyesight. My goodness. Grateful for eyesight. Whatever it is that we're deeply grateful for, do you feel a sense of joy along with that? And we're better than in community, surrounded by friends and loved ones, to feel a sense of joy. And community is another otter attitude, isn't it? That's number 3 this morning. The otters in our video demonstrated an amazing sense of community, not only in protecting their babies, but in the way that they hang out together. Remember the otter raft? Isn't that cute? It's like, wow, just a raft of otters all holding hands and floating around together. And I love how they hold hands. I think that's so cute. So cute. They're connected. They stay connected. Now the mamas nurture the babies for 6 months until they learn to swim. Another way that they're in community is their interdependence with the kelp. They called it seaweed, but that's kelp beds that they hang out in. And there's actually a kelp forest and a kelp bed. The forest is what you see above the water, floating on the water, and the bed is what's down below. And they've got a relationship with the kelp. The kelp they can go into, and it helps them, just kind of anchor themselves to not float out to sea. They can swaddle the babies and keep them afloat while mom goes and finds food because babies eat a lot. So she comes back and finds the baby right there. And then they kind of wrap themselves up and they just hang out there and eat and rest and hang out in the kelp bed. Well, the other part of it is they love sea urchins. Sea urchins are one of their favorite meals. And sea urchins are incredibly destructive to kelp if they get overpopulated. So the otters are keeping the sea urchins under control, and the kelp is helping the otters to stay afloat. It's a beautiful symbiotic relationship in nature. Just another beautiful symbiotic relationship. So imagine with me if we all adopted an otter-like attitude about play, about joy, about community. What kind of world would we be facing? What kind of world would we look at if we took the opportunity to play every day? Every day. If we actively cultivated joy, made it our intention, my life is joy. We do the practices to get there. And we became intentional in our community building, in every relationship, every interaction that we have. We're building community. We are one. We're recognizing our oneness with the oneness of the other. Every interaction that we have. What kind of a world would we have? Hard to imagine, but I think we would be a step closer to a world that works for all. So if you would like to study these principles and practices, you can sign up for Mindful Monday. It's a newsletter that comes out Monday mornings. You can do so in the lobby, QR code, or send us an email. And your spiritual practice for this week is joy. Go figure. Now, if that sounds foreign to you, I've got a few practices for you to work with, okay? Engage in spiritual practice, meditation, prayer, or contemplation. Notice and be present to all the simple joys around you. There are millions of them. Millions of them. Right now, standing right here. Each and every one of you, I consider a miracle, a beautiful expression of love and light to be here, and I am honored to be in your presence and to see you and to have you here. We've got comfortable chairs. We've got good carpet. We've got a beautiful room. We've got lights. We've got a camera. We've got somebody to operate the camera. We've got somebody to create and run our slides. We've got music. We've got water. We've got air conditioning. Notice the little things that we just don't see most of the time. Take a moment. Take good care of yourself. Eat well, sleep, rest, exercise, have fun, play. Do what you love. Do what you love. Do you know what you love to do? A lot of times we do what we think we have to do, don't we? Rather than doing what we'd love to do. What we would love to do. I was asked by a mentor long ago, not that long ago. Oh, yeah. What do you want to do? It was actually this, how long have we been here? 10 years ago when I was thinking about opening this. And she said, what do you want to do? What do you really, really want to do? And I just stopped and I was like, I don't know. And I had to get very clear on what I wanted, not what everybody else wanted me to do, not what I thought I needed to do, not what the teachers expected me to do. What did I really, really, really want to do? And that's an important question to ask ourselves. What do I really want to do? What do I love? Make time for simple pleasures. Savor the small things that can bring joy. A meal, a walk, a smile, laughter. Last night, a warm bath. Watch the sunrise, sunset. Be in nature. Enjoy music and the arts. Be creative. Read a book. Dance, relax, take a nap, watch a movie. Thousands of things. Slow down. Be mindful. Be with positive, joyful people doing positive, joyful things. Like here, now, last night. We've got a community for that. Spend time with loved ones. Maintain connection rituals and routines such as family dinners, social events with friends. Anybody have scheduled social time with friends that you commit to and honor in every week or month or however frequently? Yeah, it's important, isn't it? And we make time for those things. We carve those things out because they bring us joy. And practice gratitude. We just rattled off a whole list of things to be grateful for. Practice gratitude. Notice what's good and praise it. It's a lot of ideas. Anything in there you can use? Maybe? If not, find something else. Find something else. The interesting thing to me in reading through that list is that all of those things require us to be present. To be present to what is. So choose which one resonates with you or choose something different. But this week, choose joy. Choose joy this week. We'll wrap up with another quote from Don. He says, we are game-playing, fun-having creatures. We are the otters of the universe. So it is. And so it is your turn. Any questions or comments this morning? No? Diane?
I have been more conscious of joy in my life. So, and being joyful, and I really like that. It's much more of a part of my life. And I've been having some other issues, and it's just sort of made that wonderful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. As I was driving in this morning, I was thinking about joy. And it's like, wow, joy and peace are two of the God qualities that really anchor me in my life. And when I can stay in those places, everything else just ebbs and flows. It doesn't bounce so hard. you know. Anybody else? Daniel?
I think from a physical standpoint, being joyful releases endorphins.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it just medically makes us happier and makes us live longer and prosper.
That's all right. That's all right. Yeah, it does. And, with joy being the byproduct of a intimate relationship with the divine, our meditation practice and gratitude practices can lead us there, which supports physical health and well-being as well as mental and spiritual health and well-being. Yeah.
I was thinking that I'm going to be 77. If I'm not going to be joyful now, when?
Oh,
What am I waiting for?
right? And I think about Justin Timberlake in that song this morning. He was pretty joyful in that, wasn't he? I mean, his whole body seemed to be filled with joy as he was dancing. And I mean, everybody in there, the little kid, all the way up, everybody was just so joyful in their dance. So that's one thing that we can do is just move our bodies, right? Yeah. Anybody else? All right. Well, thank you very much. And let's anchor this in some prayer. What do you think? So as we just move within to that quiet space, allow our hearts to open as we recognize that there is a presence and a power right where we are. It is infinite in its nature. It is loving. It is love. And it expresses as all of the qualities of being, harmony and peace, joy, love, prosperity, wisdom, intelligence. It is that which has created and hung the stars and that which keeps them in their orbits. It is that which is manifested through all of creation. And that includes us. For each of us is a manifestation of this divine presence. And we are whole, perfect, and complete in that manifestation. And because we are created of it, we have the qualities of it. We are that wisdom and intelligence. We are that peace and prosperity, that joy, that love. And as we are unified in that, in each other, and in all of life on this planet and beyond, I speak my word for and about us today. Knowing that we are each gathered here today and online and later, for there's no separation. We are gathered by divine appointment. We are here on purpose. We are here to be love. We are here to be peace. We are here to be joy. We're here to be in community. As we play together, as we share life and life experiences, the amazing ups and the devastating downs, and everything in between, we float on this river of joy, on this current of life, forever connected and unified with each other and in the divine. I bless this community. I bless all who attend, have ever attended, and will attend in the future. I bless all of those who are traveling this day, knowing the joys and the fun that they are experiencing on their travels. And I bless each one of us gathered right here, right now. And knowing for anyone who has anything on their heart that they seek prayer around, as they lift it into the consciousness of this room in this moment, that we surround it with our light and our love, knowing that that prayer is answered right here, right now, in this moment, that the highest and best is occurring for all. And so it is with a grateful heart, filled with thanksgiving, joy, and gratitude, that I release this prayer into the action of law, knowing that it is already done, it is already made so. And we affirm that truth together by saying, and so it is.